Mount Constitution has trails you can mountain bike on if you're here at the right time of the year. Standing prominent on Orcas Island at 2,399 feet or 734 meters above sea level, Mount Constitution, which was named after the USS Constitution, or Old Ironsides, as it was sometimes known, is the highest point in the San Juan Islands. There's even an old medieval-style watchtower at the top of Mount Constitution that was built by the CCC in the 1930s. But you're here because you want to know if there's anything worth mountain biking on Orcas Island, and I'm here to tell you that yes, there is, with qualifications. The first of these being that mountain bikes are only allowed on Orcas between September 15th and May 15th. Plan accordingly. Now, before I get into the details, I need you to navigate to patreon.com/voiceovertrails and consider supporting informational content like this. In order to get here to the bottom of Mount Constitution, you're going to need to take a ferry. The ferry you'll need to take to get to Orcas Island departs from Anacortes, Washington, which itself is about an hour and a half north of Seattle. You'll need your car on the island, as the trails located on the bottom of the eastern lobe of the island are 12.5 miles of very hilly, very narrow, and busy road from the ferry terminal. No, you are not riding your bike to this ride. So you'll need your car. Vehicle spots on the ferry are not unlimited, so it's important to reserve a place on the ferry at least a few days in advance of your trip. Make sure you print out the itinerary and bring it with you. Plan to arrive at the ferry terminal an hour early. If you've never taken a ferry ride, it is kind of cool, and honestly, just being on the boat out in the Puget Sound like this is part of the fun. If you're here on a clear day, the views out to Mount Baker are stunning, and if it's springtime, you'll be treated to views of snow-capped peaks along the spine of the Cascades all the way up into Canada and down to the Olympics, not to mention all the San Juan Islands, as well as the occasional porpoise breaching the surface of the water if you're lucky. One important caveat is that the ferry ride takes about an hour each way, so that needs to be factored into the trip. This is definitely not a ride you're going to do every weekend, as getting out to Orcas Island is kind of a fiasco all by itself. After disembarking from the ferry, drive to Moran State Park on the other side of the island. Park here in this wide parking area just past the Moran State Park Arch. Make sure you've got a Discover Pass in your windshield, as they're required at all state parks. There should be a pay station somewhere nearby. I'm going to post a link to the GPS route that I used. I know you're not going to like that this involves a road climb, but there really is only one good way to ride your bike to the top of this, and unfortunately, it's the same route the cars use. Fortunately, this is on an island, so the traffic is limited. But before riding the pavement, you're going to need to start this 2,200-foot climb on some really chunky and steep single track for about the first 1.3 miles as you gain 550 feet in elevation. This trail is chunky and unbelievably steep in places. There's nothing thoughtful about how this trail was flagged, and it even finds steeper grades to climb in spite of being right next to old road grades in places. It's not like it could really be that much better, though, because Mount Constitution is a pretty steep mountain, kind of like everything in northern Washington. It kind of goes with the territory. You'll be pushing your bike in places, most likely. At this intersection with the Cascade Lake Loop, turn left to stay on the seasonal bike trail. This trail will eventually rejoin with the road right here at this parking area. Resist the temptation to ride this service road in vain hopes that it might be another pathway to the top. It is not. It loops around and climbs Mount Pickett instead. Resign yourself to your miserable fate for the next 4 miles, over which you'll ascend 1,800 feet on the Mount Constitution Road. It's a steep road, and the grade is relentless. This is the kind of road where you'll smell hot engine oil from the cars climbing to the top and hot brakes from the cars descending back to the bottom. There are some teaser views out across the sound as the road gets nearer to the summit, and that's kind of nice. It's just a little preview of the glory to come. This will have been worth it, I promise. If you're really eager to get back to single track, there is a trail near the top, right where the road finally gets easy, that leads to the South Summit connector, but honestly, that just looked to us like a way to make an already difficult climb more difficult right where it stops being difficult, so we just kept climbing the road. There's this decent little visitor center at the top of Mount Constitution, so that's pretty neat. Climb the gravel stroller path and ascend to your reward, you freak on 2 wheels. Now look at that. That was totally worth it, now wasn't it? These views are incredible. But this isn't even the best view up here. There's more. For whatever reason, I just assumed this medieval-looking tower would be closed, because usually everything cool is closed. But it wasn't closed, and this gets you above everything. And once you're up here, you can even see the buildings in downtown Vancouver, as well as the Canadian Coast Range looming above that fair city, in addition to the various islands out across the Sound and into Bellingham and straight down the spine of the Cascades. Now for the descent. From the summit, you'll want to start here at the top of the Mount Constitution Summit View Trail, which ascends 368 feet over 1 mile with about 57 feet of climbing in the middle. One fun fact about this forest up here is it's the farthest west lodgepole pine forest in the contiguous 48 states. Thank you, Bob Bornick, for that little factoid. As far as trails go, it's rocky and narrow. I can definitely see why there's a seasonal closure, as I would not want to share this trail with large numbers of hikers. There are a couple more bonus views on the way down, so enjoy. When you get to this intersection, turn right. The trail starts getting a little chunkier through here, but that's just a preview of coming attractions. Eventually, the Summit View Trail will meet up with the road at the top of the Cold Spring Trail. The Cold Spring Trail starts out sort of flat and meandering at the top for the first approximately 1/2 of a mile, passing by some swampy stuff and through a bunch of twiggy trees until it arrives at this intersection. If for some reason you wanted to access the top of the Powerline Trail, you'd turn right. If you don't want to ride 20-foot gaps, then you don't want to ride the Powerline Trail, so stay to the left and ride Cold Spring. And the Cold Spring Trail is pretty fun. It's a decently packed bench trail with a lot of tight switchbacks that descends 1,800 feet in 3 miles, so it's kind of what you'd expect. It's designated as a black trail in Trail Forks, and I think that designation is accurate. There are a lot of really steep sections, and it gets narrow in places, because it's not a mountain biking trail, it's a hiker trail, which also means you need to look for hikers who could be hiking up at you, but also expect it to ride like a hiking trail. There are some decently tech features that require some skills to navigate. If this trail were on the mainland, I would recommend it without reservation. One of my favorite things about trails in northern Washington is that even trails that should be brake burners aren't brake burners because they're so technical that you're never just holding the brakes and descending. You're always doing some sort of maneuver. That being said, aside from the superlative view at the top, there is nothing this trail does well that Chuckanut right across the sound and on the mainland doesn't do better. So if it's northern Washington chunky tech you're looking for, go ride Chuckanut or Galbraith. But if you got yourself roped into being the designated driver for your wife's Orcas Island birthday party, then bring your mountain bike and come ride this. If you're coming to Orcas Island for an executive retreat where you can disappear unnoticed for a day, then bring your mountain bike and disappear. If you just want to experience the novelty of riding your mountain bike on one of the San Juan Islands just to say that you did, also come and ride this trail. But unless someone opens a shuttle company on Orcas Island, I have heard rumors somebody is trying to do just that, which would allow you to load just yourself and your bike in Anacortes and then get shuttled from the ferry terminal. Unless that exists, I can't imagine this place being a repeat destination. And the reason for that is that with the added time and hassle of the ferry reservations, arriving to the terminals early, figuring out the logistics and timing of getting on and off the ferry, and then the big paved road climb to the top, it makes for a really long day just to accomplish one 2,200-foot descent. But regardless of all that hassle, it's something you should do at least once, just to say that you did it. I'd like to take this moment to thank all my Patreon supporters, especially my Lomi Goodness level sponsors, Andy Suri, Charles Kim, Damon Corey, Randy Relithford, and Ty Morgan Marbit. I'd also like to thank all my Hero Dirt level sponsors, earning their special mention at the end of this video: Bryce Ulrich, Heather Van Valkenburg, Jason Moore, and Pedro Cantarini. If you'd like to join these magnificent gooey ducks and support useful informational content like this, navigate to patreon.com/voiceovertrails today and choose a sponsorship level that you feel is appropriate. Now, get out there and go ride your bike.